Live. Let's see. Go live. Okay. Okay. Welcome to Conserve Ya Energy podcast. Today we are honored to have a distinguished panel of guests who bring profound insight and experience to our discussion on Black conservatism. Joining us is Minister Fredrick Norman, a leader deeply rooted in faith and community advocacy. We also have Miss Valerie White, passionate advocate for conservative principles in the Black community. And finally, we're privileged to welcome Miss Annette Davis Jackson, a past senatorial candidate for District 55, whose campaign highlighted the values and challenges of Black conservatives. In today's conversation, we're going to explore the importance of Black conservatism in the current political landscape. We're going to delve into the differences between Black men and Black women within the conservative movement and discuss the critical issues facing the Black community at this pivotal moment in our history. This is a conversation that you would not want to miss. So let us get engaged. What I would like to do is I would like for everyone to take 30 seconds just to do a brief introduction of themselves, and then we'll jump right in. And we'll start with Minister Fredrick Norman.
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Mr. Dyson. Yeah, I was thinking about that earlier today. My conservative values and where they first became evident was, I think, at 16 years old, growing up in North Georgia. And it was a very, very, rural conservative area, heavy Republican district. And I didn't even understand at that time, what conservative values meant because I was not politically engaged. But this white family who, had taken me like I was their son, and I think it might have been Ronald Reagan that was in office at that time, or the president before him, but they were very conservative. And they asked me to, be a voice up in that part of Georgia, Northeast Georgia, where it was very rare, to hear a Black teen speaking on behalf of a Republican candidate. But as I, studied, the values or the policies that he was presenting, I found that they lined up with my core beliefs and everything. So I think that was my first introduction to really what was burning on the inside of me. So it's been, the conservative side of the house, from that time forward, ever since here 30, 40 years later.
Okay. And Miss Valerie White, just a brief introduction into who you are.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Yeah, thank you for having me. I've been involved with politics for more than a decade, served on several committees, ran a conservative committee as well. Currently the not anymore, the secretary of Frederick Douglass Foundation. I've been involved with them since 2017, worked in state government, governor's office, currently the Wake County coordinator for America's First Works. So I got my hands and my activities all over, but I'm really excited about what I'm doing. I'm a Christian, so I'm going to cry loud and spare not and defend the faith.
There you go. And last but not least, Miss Annette Davis Jackson.
You know what? Thank you so much. You know what? My Republican heritage really started with my father and my grandfather. And I grew up in Los Angeles, California. My dad was a real estate broker, and it was about business. And so business is the key crux for me. And so now I've taken over my dad's real estate, and I have a brother, but there's one person in the family that takes it over to make sure that everything is done right. But I started my political in Los Angeles, went to run for mayor when Tom Bradley was on his last stint, and they turned me away, and I had to appeal it to the city attorney, and they approved it. And I said, oh gosh, these people don't like Republicans. I hightailed it to Georgia, ran for U.S. Congress, got 43% of the vote when Cynthia McKinney was running. And then I went to run against Gloria Butler, and it was unsuccessful in that. And I said, oh, let me turn around. I was a delegate for George Bush Sr. I signed a contract of America with Newt Gingrich, and my mentors were the late Paul Coverdale and Matt Collins. And Matt Collins brought me up to D.C. for me to learn the American infrastructure. And I can tell you, I'm so proud to be a mom of two and a grandmother of two too.
That's what's up. That's what's up. And
Wonderful.
you actually open up something that I'm thinking about. We could probably discuss in another conversation later. I remember watching a documentary recently about right around, I want to say around the 40s and the 50s, where a lot of the blacks that left the South and moved towards Los Angeles. Now we lost Frederick, but moved to Los Angeles, and they were considered the bourgeoisie. And these
Ah,
were individuals that no, because I really want to know a lot more about that. These were individuals that kind of distanced themselves from a lot of what was going on in the South and even some of the North. A lot of the blacks that went towards Los Angeles set up shop, opened up businesses, and wanted to be very careful with those that they allowed to come out west to set up, because a lot of the traditional, behavior of the blacks throughout the South. So it made for a very interesting story, but we can visit that at another time. And I'm wondering where Mr. Minister Norman went to.
but until that, you know why that's so interesting? Because I spoke before my high school graduation. I didn't know at 18 that I was going to the Jim Crow South. It didn't really matter to me because I was at Spelman College. I cared to go to Spelman College. So all the other racial I never got from in Los Angeles because I was a golfer all my life. And my dad was one of the unsung heroes of the PGA of America. So I had a different lifestyle, but it was so very humble. But you had to pull up your pants, you had to put on a belt, you had to have your stuff together. But it came from my mom and my dad and my grandparents. So I just thought I would say that it wasn't the bourgeoisie. It was the fact of that there was a climate of Black families that said, "Hey, I'm going into business." My grandmother had 9 children. She was a seamstress. My one of my uncles, they five uncles, they all were veterans. And one of my uncles, he designed the logo for NASA. So there were Blacks going to California because it was the gold rush. Hey, that's where you can go and do many things because of opportunity.
And absolutely, I would love to find out more about that, because I found it very interesting myself. And it was just blacks that wanted to do something different, wanted to provide for their families and provide a future for their children. I did text Mr. Minister Norman, but in the meantime, we can kind of touch into, here he is. I think he just popped out. There he is. Okay. There you go, brother. Um, so, we were just kind of discussing things while you were gone, Minister Norman, and we're going to jump right in here. And one of the things we wanted to talk about before we get into specifically about women and black women in conservatism is what are some of the key differences and motivations and political priorities between black conservative men and black conservative women? Do you feel that there is a divide, or is that just in my imagination? Are we unified? And what would you say are some of the key differences? Briefly, what are some of the key differences in how we approach this idea of conservatism? Anyone
Which
that
one are
wants
you
to.
asking question to? Well, I can start off. See, conservatism to me it started probably maybe 15 years ago, because when I was in Georgia and going into the political atmosphere, it was nothing but what Republicans believe. It wasn't what a conservative believes. So conservative is taking on the nature because the Democratic kind of flipped the script and they said, "Ooh, I got to get out of this party, so I'm going conservative. So that way I'll be in between Republican and independent, and I'm going to stay conservative." So I think conservative is kind of like a new movement. I grew up in the auspices of what Republicans believe, and that we believe in the republic, that we do believe in capitalism, that we do believe in not pull up your bootstraps. No, go get a business, and then go buy a business, and then after you buy a business, hey, let it evaluate and go sell it and get another one. So there are different auspices to conservatism versus the Republican way. And I think a lot of people slant that just because of the nature of the climate.
Well, because of the two-party system, and we tapped into that a little bit in our last pod. Because of the two-party system, a lot of us feel as if you can only go one of two ways, and there are conservative Democrats, and I think some people do get it misconstrued that conservatism is synonymous with Republican, and
Right.
it's not. In and of itself, it's its own ideology,
Mhm.
and that transcends color, it transcends party, it transcends all of that. Why don't we go into Minister Norman, and what do you think briefly are some of the differences in how black men approach conservatism versus black women, or are there differences? Is this just something that I'm fabricating in my mind?
Oh,
Just my imagination.
I would say, Mr. A, Miss Jackson was the first black female Republican. I think, what year was it that we met, Annette? Was it 90 when you ran for Congress?
Yeah. It was 93. 93
Okay,
because the election was 94.
okay. She was the first black female Republican that I had ever, personally encountered, cross paths with. And as I listened to her, her campaign pitch and speech at one of the events, and I was like, wow, okay, that's what I believe. That's what my values are. Except so that was, I saw a lot of similarities. Even in the approach, the speech and the mindset and everything. So that was very um, refreshing for me and caused me to draw towards her campaign. Because I'm now seeing what I believe, being espoused by a black female, and bringing it forward. Not stammering nor stuttering when she present. And it caused me to connect. And it was through her campaign, Mr. A, that I got introduced in '93, to a deeper connect inside the Republican Party. As I was, grassroots, on behalf of her campaign, door to door, introducing the candidate, espousing her values, her policies, her vision. So, it was, the black male, the black female. I saw a lot of similarities, and it caused me to draw closer to it, and so I didn't see a lot of division per se. I mean, there's always going to be a difference to some degree the way a man and a woman approach a thing, but through her actual campaign, it opened me up to say, wow, black men and black women can do this thing together. So it was through her in '93, '94 that I really got my feet wet, in the political realm in Georgia. A candidate who has a viable vision for Congress. So I saw a lot of similarities.
And Ms. Valerie, what about yourself? Do you see similarities in our approach?
Pretty much, that's been my experience being involved with local party politics and statewide and federal when I traveled to DC, Pennsylvania, uh, to different events, even in FDF side. We all pretty much agreed. Most of my inner circle, we're all Christians, we're all believers. So it was pretty unified. Most of the black men seemed to be married, family men, believed in traditional values, traditional marriage. They knew how to take the lead and be real men. Some of them served in the military. So it was really refreshing, as I would say, to be around strong men that knew how to lead.
And it opens up another question, um, because within our community, there's a strong, and I'm really starting to see it now, especially with in with Kamala or Kamala being the presumed candidate. Black women are very much ingrained in the Democratic Party and the Liberal Party, and they seem to be the driving force behind Democratic Party. So within our immediate circles, we might not be seeing a division, a separation, but clearly Black women are leading the charge when it comes to the Democratic Party, and that is something that why do you think that is? Briefly, why do you think so many Black women feel um, connected to the Democratic Party, its policies, its ideology, the liberalism? Anyone can jump in.
I'll take it. I'll take it. I just believe through tradition. And from what I know as a Christian, sometimes tradition isn't always good. You have to look at, why do you believe? What is your why? And when you look at historically, what is your why for voting how that you voted? And case in point, when you go to Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, I don't care what state that you go into, you don't see Beverly Hills. You don't see Buckhead. You don't see Laguna Beach. You don't see, downtown Savannah or downtown Macon. And downtown Macon is spicing it up with the Harriet Tubman Museum and the Sports Hall of Fame. But I believe that it's just tradition. And so sometimes you have to break tradition through proper research. If you're going to be an academician, and of course, most of the women of color who are African American, they've got degrees, they're very studied in their discipline, but they're not studied into, well, how did we get here? What is, how do we turn the tide? And it always becomes very contagious to stay that way. And then when you look at maybe someone like Valerie or me or Dr. Camilla Moore or Vivian Childs, I can, or Linnell Babbage Torres. I mean, there are a number of us who started way back 30 years with Dr. Camilla Moore, her husband at the time was Ralph Moore, and he was mayor of Union City. So there were a number of us who were very tight, and there was a lot of us around the country. I think, it's the dismantling of that Black Republican that the Black woman Democrat doesn't particularly like. And if we could sit at the table and really discuss and have a conversation, I think it would just really, really be healthy. Because here's the issue, and I'll let Valerie take it. The bottom line is, it's about today with Black women. We cannot, as Black women, okay, who birthed babies way back when, we cannot let the stealing of our nation go. We can't. The Bible says, if all the foundations are lost, what will the righteous be able to do? And right now, we're in a crux, and we're in a tight situation where we have to save our nation from being stolen. That's all I'll say. That's all I'll say.
Okay, okay. And Miss Valerie, would you like to tap into that to piggyback on the idea of Black women being so connected to liberalism and the ideas and concepts of the Democratic Party? It's almost as if and I'm guilty of it as well. It's almost as if we're born into it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we're born into it if we don't come from a background um, of conservatism and the foundations of the country. It's almost as if we're Democrats from birth. But what are your thoughts on that, Miss White?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question? I was getting a lot of bad feedback and it was real choppy.
Okay, so I was basically saying, did you want to piggyback on the idea, the concept that Black women almost by default are ingratiated to the Democratic Party, to the liberal ideology, and kind of piggyback on what Sister Jackson was saying in regard to that?
Yeah, I think we kind of touched on this on the last podcast. There's, 70% of Black America is single family homes. And so the mother in the home has to play both roles. So it has empowered a lot of Black women to be more in their masculine than they would be their feminine if there was a husband, a man in the home, learning how to take that lead. And so it's really sad to see, the Black women pretty much threatened the Democrat Party elites that, hey, if Kamala isn't on the top of the ticket, we're going to destroy the party. Look how loyal they are. I mean, if we don't get our way, there it goes again. We're in charge. We're going to destroy this party. And so that would be my first take on, as far as current events, what has happened. And as
They're
you
not
see,
even
they got their way.
But they're
And
not
the
even
other,
asking for anything.
huh?
They're not even asking for anything. So that's the thing that I believe is most befuddling to me is that they're not even asking for anything. And even and I don't want to get too off because we're kind of on a course here, but even with the issue of abortion, like abortion has been the go-to issue. Definitely has been for Vice President Kamala Harris. That is her go-to. But I believe the number is as high as 75% of all abortions are Black women. So here you have white women that are pushing wholeheartedly for abortion and autonomy and for the rights over our own bodies, but they're not even the ones that's out here having the abortions. It's the Black women that are having the abortions. So it's almost like we're getting behind our own destruction. And so I'm trying to, every day when I think about it, I'm saying, well, what is it that we're asking for? What is it that we are expecting from this system that has not served us at all?
Well, I think it's a Pied Piper effect. It's almost like a programming, it's almost like a Machiavellianism. When you are so uh, persuasive, when you're so persuasive in your argument and you don't have time to think, it's time to think again. It's time to really take time to think again because it means our economy. We did, Republican women did an event. It's called I Choose Love campaign. And it was just really powerful about protecting babies. And that is really so important because it's our economy. It's, the men who are going to be husbands, it's the women who are going to be wives. And we have to see that in our families. And so right now, I just believe that we're being hoodwinked. And I believe that the veil is slowly but surely before the election going to really be taken off because the narrative is that you're not in control of your body, but that is not so. You have constitutional rights, particularly nobody can tell you what to do with your body. Now, the
Right.
Supreme Court did make a major decision, but they made a major decision based on the infrastructure of America.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, part of
Yes,
the part
and
of
so
the
we have to we do have to stop
well, part of the issue is that I don't believe many of us really take the time to dig deep into these issues that we speak about. A lot of times we just deal with them on a surface level. I'm sure with you guys being fellow conservatives, you're probably getting hit right and left with, oh, have you seen, Project 2025? I mean, they just keep hitting you with it, keep hitting it. And I'm like, did you actually read it? Did you actually take the time to read it? Did you even take the time to skim it? Or is it just a situation where you're hearing what someone else said, and someone else said, and someone else said, and then it just keeps going, and they don't even really know the issues that are at hand and what the things that are being addressed, and that half of these things don't even really apply to the people that are being the most vocal about things like this. So we're not taking the time within our community to even learn and dig that deep into the political landscape. We just kind of we're it's a hive mind. It's follow what everyone else is saying, follow what everyone else is doing, get behind the crowd, and hopefully it works out for us. Um, I'd like to ask the two of you, what are some of the unique challenges that you believe that you face as conservative Black women within the political landscape, and how do you overcome this? How do you deal with being confronted by others that tell you that you're completely out of your mind, you don't know what it is that you're doing? What is your defense or offense for that type of interaction or conversation?
Well, I'll go because I'm actively engaged every day, whether it's out in in the field or on my social media, and it's just being armed with the facts. I just try to educate as much, not do all the name calling and the personal attacks. It's just like, listen, let's stick to the policies. You may not like Trump, but have you what let's talk policies. And usually that conversation tends to end because I'm not going to go back and forth if you're going to just call him a felon uh, and all this stuff, other stuff they hear, those talking points that they get, as you just said, Project 2025. You guys weren't never talking about this. This was done by the Heritage Foundation a year ago. And they pump you guys with a whole bunch of fear. You get mad and get upset. But when you talk about, step one act, opportunity zones, all the policies that Trump put forth, well, I'm still not voting for him. And then the conversation ends. So I guess to answer your question, my biggest challenge is trying to get them to focus on the policies and the legislation that's even already been passed and the things that have been done, and getting them to, get your candidate that you're voting for. Let's talk about her accomplishments. She's sitting there complaining, and here in Raleigh, she was here, I think Wednesday, about the very policies that she helped assist Joe Biden with. It was hilarious. And so, yeah,
But it seems it
that's
seems rather
my.
it seems
Mhm.
rather simple. See, this is the thing that I have the most difficulty with is just like what you're speaking of, is that people are saying, well, hey, now all of a sudden, you want to address these issues that you were instrumental in creating. There's that video that's floating around of her supposedly being assigned as being the border czar, but then her saying that she's not even been to the border. I mean, like, these are things that are this is information and data that's readily available. Yet we're
That's funny.
so it
Yeah,
is, but
that's
it's
truly
readily.
funny. And of course,
Go ahead.
What did you say in that? I'm sorry, or Mr.
Oh
A,
no,
what were you saying?
he's absolutely right. If we
Oh, she's going in and out.
I guess I'm the only one with the good signal today. I don't know.
Oh no. Okay. Well, can
Oh,
you
can
hear
you hear
me?
me now?
Okay.
Now I can
Yeah,
hear
we can hear you now. No, we can't hear you
Okay,
anymore.
all right. Well, no, he's absolutely right. And if we want to go policy, uh-oh, let's shoot the best shot. Biden,
you. We can
can you
hear
hear me
you,
now?
but you are going in and out. Are you close to the router? Are you close to?
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so Biden just put together an order. It's called 14067, and it's regarding digital assets, right? And so he's trying to, get the banks in control of our money and everything. And what China tried to do with the UK, they all tried to put and have their digital currency, and it did not work. So when it did not work, they figured, oh, well, what are we going to do with the United States? If we can get them to go on this digital currency, then we can get them to dish their fiat currency. And the reason they're trying to get us to dish our fiat currency because we're the reserve currency to the world. Hey, other countries can only trade with our money. And then a policy that is very important to me for business is Donald Trump put together a executive order to protect consumers, right? And that was Executive Order 1304. And that was to protect consumers financially, and it was to protect private property rights. Two policies to say, hey, I want to be in control of your money, your banking, and everything. And then you're looking at Donald J. Trump, which protected the consumers, protected your banking and everything. And from what it shows now is that Joe Biden has revoked 32% of the executive orders that Donald J. Trump did while he was president. Now, if that doesn't say anything, I don't know what does.
And a lot of that, I actually had that conversation this week with someone. A lot of that was done out of spite. And you would think these are the people that are elected officials. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. You're an elected official. These are the people that we're putting our trust and our faith in, and saying, okay, we're voting you in office. Someone who makes an emotional decision like that has no place in public office, because one of the things was with the border wall. Now, whether you agree with the border wall or don't agree with the border was put into place to avoid what we're facing right now. And then as soon as Biden came into office, out of spite, he immediately put a stop to the border being built, and basically put on sale all of the supplies that our tax dollars had purchased to build that wall. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, well, we need some kind of security to keep these people from coming in. That's not good leadership. This is and it's asinine if you ask me. And these are people that are supposed to be the most intelligent. These are the people that are supposed to be the most informed, and they make these types of decisions with our taxpayer money. But one of the things I did want to tap on that you bring up, I've been into cryptocurrency for probably going on about 7-8 years now. Cryptocurrency is the definition of liberty. I mean, it really is. It's the definition of freedom. I mean, if you wanted, I wouldn't tell anyone that they needed to go into the cryptocurrency space, but the whole purpose of cryptocurrency was to circumvent around the Federal Reserve and to allow individuals to have peer-to-peer transactions without the involvement of the banking system. That was the whole purpose of cryptocurrency. So the fact that governments are talking about getting into it idiocy. Like no one in the crypto space is going to support any government that wants to get into digital currency. It's just not. That's not what it's for. It's to actually avoid the government and and you're right. Blockchain is to deter fraud, which now we're at a point with the fiat currency where it's so out of control that we're at a point now where I want to do business directly with people that I want to do business with without the limitations of the banking system. And when they get involved, just like any time the government gets involved, things go to hell. And so no, I do support them keeping their hands off of cryptocurrency, keeping their hands off of the blockchain, allowing it to do what it's going to do, and everyone have the choice to get involved if they choose to or not. But I digress. That's a whole
That's
nother.
a part of the free market system, right? As capitalists.
Absolutely. And the thing is, what we're experiencing now as far as this economy, this is totally on the backs of the government. Totally on the backs of the government. And a lot of times we like to point the finger at the private sector, but you can always find some way to find government involvement, whether it be some type of restriction that leads to increases in energy costs, which leads to increases in goods and services, and it's their involvement. It's their involvement that leads us to where we currently are. And I don't see how, once again, going back to what we spoke about earlier, I don't see how all of a sudden Kamala Harris is going to be able to address these issues that when she's had the past 3 years. And of course, some people will say, well, she's the vice president. She doesn't have any power. But she definitely had the ear of the president. So if she really cared about the economic situation, she would have addressed it, prior.
Well, she definitely certainly has the influence. I don't know if you were done speaking. I was going to kind
No,
of
go ahead.
elaborate on that a little
Go
bit.
ahead, please.
Yeah, I mean, of course, she had the influence to get that done. I mean, they passed the Asian Crime Bill. Who do you think was probably behind that? Over the George Floyd Policing Act. Okay, it got passed in the House, but it didn't pass in the Senate. But why didn't you write an executive order for that? And to go back in regards to cryptocurrency and this whole policy that she stole from Trump about no tax on tips. Trump had said that weeks ago. But yet, how are you going to keep that promise when Joe Biden, who you were very influential behind and supporting him in these policies, you hired 1,000 and some IRS agents to go after people that weren't paying their taxes or the 1%, but yet now you're going to do no tips on tax. If you believe that, you might as well believe in the Tooth Fairy. And remember when they came after Zelle, Venmo, and Cash App, and they wanted to tax that? See, if they can't tax cryptocurrency or they can't tax your Cash App, Venmo, and Zelle transactions, that's how they get control. And who probably, let's just take a stab in the dark, is using Zelle, Venmo, and Cash App? That's your sisters that do hair out of their home,
Absolutely.
or people who don't use the banking system. It's all
Absolutely.
about control and more tax dollars that they can get in their pocket to do nothing towards the interest of the people who voted for them.
Why do we vote against our best interests? And I say we because I am part of this black community. Why do we consistently vote against our best interests? Why is it that we don't have a clear understanding about the dangers of additional taxation? Why is it that we don't understand that restrictions on the private sector lead to economies that we're experiencing and high levels of inflation? Why is it that how do we become more educated? I know when and I alluded to this in the last conversation, and I know Ms. Jackson, this is the first conversation that we're having, but I also ran for office here in Atlanta. I ran for city council, and one of the things that I said in our last pod was that the number one thing that people were looking for was information. Of course, we all have our, our personal needs and desires that from our public officials. But most people just wanted information. They wanted to know what was available to them, things that were available. Why is it that it's so difficult for us to be informed? What is it that is keeping us from being informed as a people?
Well, it's just purely lack of knowledge. If we truly knew the infrastructure of America, and if we truly knew as people of color what the Black inventors did who have patents and trademarks, oh gosh, it would be out of this world. We would be developing more patents and more trademarks. That's why Terrence Howard is doing what he's doing, because he's like, wait, no, you took my trademark. So there's things of Black innovators who, as they say, there's an article of Black innovators who elevated the United States, and they're just reassessing what does this gold mean, and I saw it when during the COVID. You would go to some stores and they were like, we don't have any change. And 9 times out of 10, I would sit back and I would watch people say, okay, don't worry about it. But I stood there and said, well, you're going to go find my change, okay? Because if you take my change from 1 million people, 2 million, 30 million people, not only are you going to have my coins, not only are you going to have my copper, not only are you going to have my pennies, but you might have, I'm a coin collector too. So you might have our wealth right there. And in the old days when you used to put in a sparklets jar, next thing you know, you had hundreds putting
Right.
your pennies and your nickels in the sparklets jar. So I don't believe that we understand emerging markets and capital markets and really how Wall Street works, and how Wall Street works based on companies that have tickers and they trade on Wall Street. When I looked at my social security number and I saw that my social security number was trading all over the country, I said, "Oh my goodness, this is what's happening. This is how the United States of America can get it." So if that's happening and Wall Street can trade and everybody else can trade, why can't Black America learn the trading game? Because it is a game like Monopoly. Monopoly told us very well when we used to try to, buy houses and lands and everything. And I'll end here. My father was a realtor, and so I just think we have to ever be mindful, and the Black community has to start assessing where are we today versus where we were 30 years ago, who Georgia, which I've spent 43 years. Now they can take your home at the drop of the hat through foreclosure, and they didn't even foreclose on your property. And they can take it, and a lawyer can go into magistrate court, and then you're done. And Georgia is a non-judicial state. It should be a judicial state. There are 23 states now that are judicial states that you have to really go to court. A lot of people in Georgia are not even seeing their day in court. So that's what we need to get to. It's an information practice, and when it happens to you, and something happened to me about 2 weeks ago. Got $1 million property, and a gentleman, he did a forged deed, with my father's name on it, and my father's passed away. And I was the Black woman Colombo and got to the title company and called. Otherwise, him and his friends and his actors and the notary and everybody were about to siphon 1.2 million. That was the first step. And then they were going to flip it.
Oh,
They were going to flip, 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 flip. So in ending, we don't really understand how the United States work and how to protect everything that we have and how not to sell everything that we have.
Well, do you believe that? And that's a very interesting position. My as I'm listening to you, the question that comes to mind is this something that we need to be formally educated? Is this information that we could pass along or pass down piecemeal? How do we go about educating others? Aside from doing what we're doing now, which is having this conversation, and then when we share this with those that are willing to accept the information. But how do we go about informing others? I mean, I'm sure just as conservatives, you are up against uh, an abnormal level of resistance just in basic everyday conversations that you have with people that you come across. And of course, staying in your immediate circle doesn't offer you the opportunity to spread the knowledge all the time. So how do we go about spreading the knowledge among our community? What are some ways by which we can put our heads together to create, blocks of information and places where people can go to be informed? And there's no better time than now, because obviously this is becoming a very interesting race. This is a very interesting race for those of you that still believe in the political system. But how do we go about informing?
I can speak on that.
Well, we have to do the same as a campaign. Robocalls.
Oh, we
Break
can't
it
hear you again.
Valerie?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
No, I'm
We
saying
can
go
hear you
ahead.
now. Oh, I'm sorry. Thanks, Annette. Yeah, I've done numerous outreach events, whether it was with my church or politically. And, as we begin to share facts, whether it was about the economy, education, workforce development, entrepreneurship, all of those things, a light bulb would go on for some of them. And then some of them, unfortunately, were just willfully ignorant. As soon as we said, even if we used the word Republican, honestly, it just shut them down. Some, one things we launched an initiative here in North Carolina when they were pushing voter suppression and voter ID, which I don't believe in voter ID. Everyone has an ID. And we simply just said, look, do you have a driver's license or a school ID? Yes. Well, that ends the argument. You can vote. So why are you listening to these people fearmong you into believing your vote is being suppressed? Have you ever had any problems with voting? Just a simple conversation without any political talking points. And they were like, no, not really. So just getting them to stop and think for themselves is the challenge. They're so used to really someone else telling them how to vote, who to vote for, what to say. You talk to majority of them, they all say the same thing, and I call them the groupthink mafia. But to go back to your question, ours have been events, forums. We invite them to galas. Any different strategy or tactic that we thought would work, and it did. We gained a lot of Democrats onto our side. If we didn't gain them, at least we got them to think and be open-minded.
Okay, so and welcome back, Minister Norman. I will say that I was guilty at one point, and I still struggle with it on a daily basis. But I was guilty at one point of not believing in the system. I'm not even going to sit here and lie to you. I didn't believe it. Now, of course, that was what led me. That was the spark that led me to actually run for office, because I said, well, I can't sit back and complain. Let me get involved and see if I can be instrumental in change within the system. But ironically, living here in Georgia, and I'll be forthcoming with the three of you. I've stated this before. I do not believe that Joe Biden won Georgia, and I had firsthand, because of my involvement in the political process, I had firsthand access to see and know that people here were doing nefarious things behind the scenes. So it's discouraging, because everything from, I just actually watched something this week, as a matter of fact, where an individual that was very much involved in the voting machines, state clearly. I mean, that the machines themselves can be programmed however you'd like them to be programmed. They're computers. So, but Georgia proved to me that the system is flawed. It definitely proved to me that the system is flawed, and it's by no mistake that Joe Biden and Kamala now have been in Georgia probably at least 10 times in the last 2-3 months between the two of them. They constantly come back here. Georgia is one of those states that they are trying to make sure that they have a grasp on politically.
Right.
And so it definitely is discouraging. Do the three of you still have faith and trust in this political system as it stands today? Do you believe that it is flawless? Do you believe that every vote counts? Or do you have questions?
I think I'll answer on that, Mr. A. I definitely have questions, and to highlight your point, with you having behind the scenes involvement and the nefarious acts that were taking place, the question that that rose in my mind was, Georgia has a Republican governor, Republican Secretary of State, and they did not push back. When the Trump team, made the request, for the recounts and all. Your Republican leadership here in the state of Georgia did not forcefully back President Trump in it. So it makes you ask, like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
These are the very people that are Republican in name, but their actions does not indicate that they are part of that party that desires to see, the vision for America, that President Trump has, because they were saying one thing with their mouth, but their actions totally prove something else. And I was, at first I was kind of shocked by Governor Kemp, because he definitely would not have taken the governor's seat if it had not been for Trump's involvement. But then these are the very people, the leadership that turned against President Trump as it pertains to the illegalities and the nefarious acts that were taking place during the 2020 election. So it raises my level of suspicion to a whole nother level. Do I trust it? No. Do I trust the leadership? Absolutely not. Even though they were Republican in name, but that's in name, but their actions did not totally prove. And as you say, Kamala and Governor Walz, I think, why is it that they are making so many visits to Georgia if something is not in play? I mean, you don't have to be a rocket science to figure some of this stuff out. You just got to watch, you just got to watch actions. So that would be a no for me. And do I believe that there's going to be another attempt? Absolutely.
Absolutely. What about you, ladies?
Well, I believe that there's going to be stricter controls, because I was all a part of that. I was on the 2020 ballot when there were, there were 21 of us running for United States Senate. So we went all throughout the state of Georgia. So we saw a lot too. And the pressure that we, the people, put on all across the state of Georgia helped the Georgia General Assembly under Senate leadership 202. And when they pushed SB 202, and of course they had Senate hearings, and when they pushed SB 202, what that said is, hey, some things are not right, because we know that the Secretary of State, we just have to pray for them, that he did a consent agreement with Stacey Abrams' organization. And Stacey Abrams' organization sued the state of Georgia, and then they went into a consent agreement. And so this was all behind the scenes. And that's when the Senate stepped up. And I'm so happy that the Senate stepped up So I think that some things are happening, but here's what I will say. When you've got an electronic machine, right, just like a computer, that you can stick a flash drive in, I may vote, right? But after I vote, you may transfer all of my stuff. And that's the problem of the digital landscape. Now the digital landscape, they can take you home from you and you don't even know. The same thing that I was talking about earlier. It's the digital that is really stripping the constitutional rights of our people. And that's why we have to protect at all costs. And we starts with Georgia General Assembly and Brian Kemp. They did take other measures to really secure that because on them in Georgia.
Ms. Davis, I'd like to ask a question right there. You said they did a consent agreement with Stacey Abrams. Who are you referring to?
Stacey Abrams, she ran for governor.
No, I'm talking about someone did a consent agreement with her team. Who is that someone?
Yes.
Are you talking
Yes.
about Governor Kemp? Can you hear me?
Yeah, no. The Secretary of State, Raffensperger. I have to
Did
send.
it?
I have the consent agreement. Yeah, there was a
So
consent agreement that was done because the state of Georgia got sued, and so you just got to see the consent agreement, and then we can discuss it
wow,
at another time. But there
wow.
were things that were going on behind the scenes, and the people of Georgia have to know, and all around this country, that there are underpinnings going on all around the country, and they cannot believe the narratives of the media because you notice the media always has these certain stories. And when I see that the media is saying certain words, I said, "Oh wow, that's out of playbook number page 2, number 144," because there definitely is a playbook. And so what we have to do is we just have to defeat the playbook. We have to defeat the playbook, and we have to get more people involved to say, you know what, not today, not today, not tomorrow, not for our children's children. We will not have the same habits for being involved, for taking care of our children, for making sure that women can procreate and men can be fathers and everything. And I'll tell you this, even if a man raise those children, raise those children. Like, we should have no excuses. And so Georgia is that battleground state, and I'm sure the federal government is going to be looking down, and so that all eyes are on Georgia, just like Tupac said, all eyes are on me, all eyes are on Georgia.
Well,
Mm.
let me say this. Thanks, Annette. Speaking of Stacey Abrams, did she concede yet? Did she concede the governor's race? Because you remember, they cheated. So to answer your question, do
No,
I
I
still
don't think
believe
so.
in?
I don't think so.
To answer your question, I believe in the system because why didn't they cheat for her, right? Maybe they just didn't like her. I don't know. As we talked about, the black men were upset that the game, what was it? The tournament left because of the whole incident with the voter ID or whatever it was. But anyway, my experience, and this is personal. I ain't gonna say any names. I have a friend who lives in Georgia, ran for county commissioner. He knows I'm a Republican. He called me to get my uh, advice and some feedback of what he should say to his Republican constituents. So we had just a basic politic conversation, and then it went over into, well, what do you think? What's the poll numbers? What's your chances of winning? Oh, no, I got it in the bag. I have a friend who works for the Board of Elections. She said they'll take care of it.
Really?
He
Really?
literally said this to me. Okay?
Did he win?
Oh, I got, huh?
Did he win?
Yep, he won.
Interesting.
Actually, I think he's on his second term.
Interesting.
And
So
to hold on, Minister Fredrick. Y'all remember when some of the Republicans, the night of the election, remember they said a pipe busted and they had
Oh
to
yeah.
shut down early?
Oh yeah.
Remember that? And
Yeah.
we all saw it on camera, them pulling ballots from under the table. Some of
Right.
the Republicans did try to fight and didn't want to leave. They were forced to leave, and they stood outside the building and was like, "No, y'all need to open the door. We need to be here to, to be to watch the count." And they would not let them back in.
Okay, so can I ask a question right there?
Yes.
Okay, so with what was just stated, Valerie, and what Annette just stated, okay, then how could the trust be in a system if these were evident, acts, and what your friend told you, and Stacey Abrams has never conceded the race, but the Secretary of State of Georgia, as Annette alluded to, entered into a consent agreement with Stacey Abrams. Then the night that the pipe supposed burst and all of this, and Republicans were not allowed to to get back in, but Governor Kemp, Secretary of State Raffensperger, they did not forcefully intervene. So that's the things that I look at to say, no, I don't trust the system. No, I don't.
Okay,
They
I
may
can
have
answer that. I
no,
can
no.
answer
Let
that
me finish.
question.
Let me finish. They may have Republican in front of their name, but that's about for me personally, that's about as far as it goes. Because if they were really, really 100%, don't you think their actions would dictate something different?
Okay, I trust our two-party democracy and system that we can vote for whoever we want to. Do I trust the people? Some of the people in the system? No. It's just like our banking system or any other industry. We have to trust our banking system. When we deposit money in our bank, we can use our debit card, withdraw slip, write a check. We trust the banking system. But can we trust all the individuals in the banking system? No. I think it's a good system. I trust our Constitution. However, there's characters, as I mentioned, that are not operating in the best integrity. Cheaters are gonna cheat.
I mean, I
Unfortunately.
don't even think your and Minister Frederick and I was discussing this. I don't even think your party matters when that check is cut. And
It
if
doesn't.
if you're coming down here, and like I said, they've been
I
down here
get
no
it. I
less
get
than 10 times. If I'm coming down here, I'm not only coming down here to make a regular, checkup on see if things are going the way that we plan them to go, but I'm coming down here to see who else do I need to cut a check to. You know what I'm saying? As we get closer to this day, this decision making day, who else do I need to cut a check to? I don't think Governor Kemp is above accepting a payoff. You might never hear about it, but there's some decisions that he's made
Well, I
as
would just
a
say
governor.
that
Go
sometimes
ahead.
hands are always in the cookie jar.
Hmm.
And the best way to do that is look at who's contributing. Who's contributing to who? I think that's the best way to kind of really decide God that he will never leave us nor forsake us. And he's not going to let our country go in this election cycle to a question mark. Okay. Right now, there's a lot of question marks. Like they said, got milk, got questions, need answers. Okay. Can you help me? Yeah, he's still deja vu because you know what? These things they told us a long time ago. They said that you might not buy or sell or get gain. That happened in COVID, where they tried to stop people from going to the grocery store and everything. So we've seen prophecy at its best. But I would say that, you know what, this is a Christian nation, and what we have to do is, there was an old show a long time ago that said, will the real man or the real woman stand up? And I'm just asking, hey, the real men and the real women of America, stand up to the principles that made us free. Because if we don't stand up to those in the freedom issue, that I would say we're not going to be in trouble, but I believe that we're going to be in the victory because we have to start speaking life to this thing. See, we can't speak life to this thing if we don't speak life to it.
Oh, we lost you again, Annette.
Well,
I was just saying we have to move some atmospheres.
I would agree with that. I would agree with speaking, and last time that we had a conversation, it got into the spiritual realm, and we have to keep reminding ourselves that this has been written. That doesn't mean that we should be any less involved in the political process. Um, Politics was all up and down the Bible, so politics is very real, and I guess when we question what are we doing it for, here we have four very intellectually sound individuals that are sharing, that are having a conversation, uh, and it's a positive thing. But going from here, what are we doing it for? What is it that we are ultimately attempting to accomplish individually? What would you say you're attempting to accomplish? Of course, on the surface, it's, hey, we'd like to see the candidate that we feel is going to serve our needs, so we want to get that person in office. But ultimately, the big picture, what are we doing this for?
I believe, me personally, what I'm doing it for, Mr. A, and coming into the light of some things years ago and understanding the Constitution, of the United States of America, and what we have saw a great attack on. I believe it came more prevalent during the Obama years, you know, um, and it was in this aspect right here. I used to, until I started to do a little deeper dive, deeper research, and understand that America is not a democracy. America is a republic. That's too big. There's a vast difference between those two entities. Until we understand, the attack that is taking place right now, it is against the republic. That's why they want the Constitution destroyed. Barack Obama he was not very fond of the Constitution as it currently is. So if you destroy the Constitution and the foundation of it which is republic, not democracy, then that's they accomplish the goal that they're on. So until we're willing to shift some mindsets of thinking and start to confront this stuff, as it really is, we're out here fighting for something I believe that is not really the fabric of America. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say democracy. It says republic. Now, I encourage people, go and study the difference between the two. Why do they want the republic destroyed? Why is that attack so great right now? And anyone that studies, the Democratic strategy, the Democratic candidates, they are after the rights of Americans. As Annette and I talked earlier today, the soul of a nation, of a people. If democracy was the order of the day, then wait a minute. Why would they be after the soul of a nation? Why would they want to destroy the fabric of a nation if democracy was the order of the day? No, the United States of America is a republic. We've been sold and told that it's a democracy, but actually it's not. Our very own Constitution tells us that this is a republic. So those things made me start to look at this different, years ago, especially from a business perspective. As I studied, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, and I found democracy nowhere in there, but I did find republic. and that's what they're after, to destroy the fabric, the foundation, you know, of this uh, of this nation, and whatever party it be, whatever
Because
party it be, until we
so many of us are behind the eight ball when it comes to just basic understanding that what you're speaking about is so far ahead. And it shouldn't be, because it should be the conversation that we're all having. But truthfully, I mean, we a large swath of our community lives in the past. So
absolutely,
And I'm going.
they're still talking about um, slavery. They're still talking about these things. They're stuck in that space. They can't even begin to have the conversation about our rights, because they don't even believe that we have rights. They can literally sit there and see someone on television that is experiencing all that this wonderful country has to offer them, and still not be able to look at themselves and see themselves as being owed the same rights, the same freedoms, the same liberties. And so if you're still stuck on, you know, retribution and the white man is holding me down, then you're not even able to have a conversation about a republic and the difference between a republic and a democracy, and how that's applicable to you as an American, not as a black American, not as as an American, and how you can take advantage of these things that are available to you, because you're still
absolutely.
stuck.
Absolutely. When I used to, engage in the barbershop talks, from Douglas County to DeKalb County, from Clayton County to Fulton County, and as I was engaging, the black men in those conversations, and that was the word that came up a lot, democracy, democracy. I said, brothers, what you all don't understand. Nowhere is the word democracy mentioned. Where did that come from? Who told you that? Who sold us? I was there too at one time. I used to think that we live in a democracy, and a lot of it, they brought enlightenment to me when I was in the military and I started to study. Like, wait a minute. I pledge allegiance to the flag and the what?
United States.
And
The Republic of the United States of
the
America.
republic. It does not say democracy. So this stuff it led me on a deeper dive. Like, wait a minute, where did I get that from? Who told me that? Who sold me on that? But if you don't understand, the difference between a republic, which America is, and a democracy, you're continuing espousing for something that is not even, fathom reality. So that's why I veer off the path sometimes, because when we go back to our founding document, let's read it. Let's look at it. Let's see. Not repeat what someone told you, not what a party is saying. Let's look at the fabric. These words that were written, that was for all Americans,
Yeah.
And it wasn't just for the white man. It just wasn't for the black man, the Asian man, the Hispanic man. This Constitution was written for all. But if you don't even understand that we live in a republic, what chance would I really have of engaging you in a fruitful, healthy, and productive conversation? But I
And
still engage.
unfortunately, yeah, I
I
agree
still
with you,
engage
Mr.
people
Frederick.
in the conversation every opportunity that I get, and I just encourage them to go look at the founding documents. Go look at it. Don't just take what someone else is telling you. Go look at the founding documents.
I agree with you, Minister Frederick. As Mr. A was saying, the
I think
Democrat
that
Party has
yeah,
done great.
I think that is so amazing.
Yeah, and they've done a great job in, painting themselves as their victims, indoctrinating them that to hate America, and this is the land and you lived in or were born in, and probably grew up in the public school system saying the Pledge of Allegiance since we were kindergarten, first grade. They were teaching us love of country. But I say it as I say it often, as the enemy within. We've left our gates wide open and let people in this country who don't want to adapt to our customs, to our culture, and I'm talking American culture. They hate us. I mean, they come in and fly their own flags of the country you flee from. If your country was so great, why don't you go back there? And so, yeah, they want to see socialism. The elites, as someone said before, it's never worked anywhere else. And then now that the illegals that came from Venezuela, Peru, and different parts of the country, they're seeing our country go in the way of socialism. They've got to see how their guns were taken away, all these little policies and laws that were passed that eventually, slowly but surely, they got into voting for someone who turned their nation into a socialist nation. And so now, someone's calling me. But yeah, they're beginning to speak out. I saw an interesting video of a Asian woman. She went on a college campus. She was challenging these college students and getting them to see how socialism doesn't work. You could have heard a pin drop in the room. I'm gonna send you guys the link. It was very powerful. I didn't finish reading it. I believe she wrote a book. That's why she was on campus promoting her book and sharing her story. But it was very compelling and insightful. And just watch their faces totally drop. It just totally dismantled their argument because she absolutely lived it, right? So that's my take on it.
I have a question for you, Sister Valerie. Do you believe there are some Republicans that are in favor of socialism?
I haven't met any.
Okay.
Well, I got some real good stuff to say. I have some real good stuff to say. And when I say totally, and when I ran for U.S. Senate, the main things is because Georgia has some.
Oh, we're losing you again. Oh no.
Okay. But the reason I asked that question until she comes back, Sister White, Annette and I was having a conversation earlier today about some of our Rhino Republicans, our Senator Lindsey Graham, the Mitt Romneys, the Liz Cheneys, the Mitch McConnells. Why are they not? These people been in government almost long as you and I've been alive. Now, do they have a secret agenda?
Yeah, of course they do. As I said, from what I've learned and engaged with people who are involved in their local GOP, they all don't play the same. And I'm very fortunate in North Carolina, I believe Ohio, possibly Georgia. What we heard from the RNC is that, we're pretty unified. You can go to different states and even some counties here in North Carolina that, in the backwoods, their ideology may be slightly different. And, there's infighting, of course, because everyone is not going to think the same. We all stand on our certain policies. I mean, you have the log cabin Republicans, you have the social conservative Republicans, you have the, the physical conservative Republicans. So, you're dealing with people. And I have a friend in Arizona, literally the chair embezzled a whole bunch of money, and now the party is kind of dismantled. And they were never Trumpers. Okay, some of them in that party were never Trumpers. Okay, so it happens. It's people dealing with people.
So this coalition of, I think we briefly mentioned it, maybe the last podcast. This coalition of Republicans who have come together and elected officials who have come together and will be crisscrossing the country, Republicans for Harris. So if Kamala Harris is a proponent of socialism, then what would, if those Republican officials are crisscrossing the country to promote her message, to back her in her candidacy, so if she's a proponent of socialism, then would that also not make them proponents of socialism on the other side of the aisle?
It stems from Trump hate. They just don't like Trump.
I understand where it
Okay?
stems from, but I'm talking. What we're
Right.
talking about right now is what is trying to be infiltrated or brought to the forefront in this country, which is socialism. So if candidate Harris, VP Harris, Tim Walz, if these the puppets of what they're trying to do to this country, and you have a coalition of Republican elected officials who are on the stump for VP Harris, would it not be safe to say that they also believe in socialism as a
It's
form of government?
possible.
Well, I
It's
think I
possible.
think I think that I think that that begs the question of, is Donald Trump the outlier that some of us perceive him to be? And that because we've never had uh, we've never had such a defense that's built up against one candidate to the degree that we're witnessing with Donald Trump. I mean, they've thrown everything at this individual, from trying, from court to, I mean, they are really trying, and it makes you ask the question like, well, what is it that they know about this gentleman that we don't know? Now, you know, he's a Republican on paper, but there's something that he's either standing for, or there's something that he's attempting to implement that they know about, that they want to stop. And then, when people say, well, Republican and the
That's it.
Democrat are two wings of the same bird, it's like, well, then what's this third thing that's standing out here on the outside? What is this that Donald Trump is attempting to do that the other two parties have such an issue with, that they have such a
Mhm.
problem with? Or is that, once again, is that something that's in my imagination? Am I imagining this man to be something
Well,
that?
you know what? I can answer that.
Please do.
Is in your mind. I want to say that oftentimes we forget that across our great United States, there are commodities, right? And so people are after our commodities. Nobody's talking about our commodities. And if you know our commodities in Georgia, and if Black America knew what commodities to get in Georgia, or to be involved in, you're talking about peanuts, corn, cattle, dairy products, pecans. You talking about chickens, and the list goes on of commodities in the state of Georgia. No, everybody's looking to take over our agriculture across the United States of America. They're looking to, number one, take over our agriculture, and number two, to take over our housing market all over these great United States, and we cannot let them. We cannot acquiesce, because I heard a statement that said, they want everybody to be renters instead of homeowners, but we didn't see that. I'm 61. We didn't see that 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. So we have to stop the decline, turn it around, change the atmosphere, and we got to say no. No money's going to Ukraine, because you guys haven't even talked about, what is even given to the person of color who happens to be a Native American. Georgia, that's Native American territory, all along the Okefenokee Swamp. And I don't know if you guys have ever, has anybody ever went down the Okefenokee Swamp?
I've been by there, yes.
But that was all Indian territory, full of great agriculture, and it's our agriculture.
So you suggesting that Donald
Okay,
Trump
all right,
is the one
all right.
individual?
We have so much to offer, and that's why it's a battleground state. It's not a battleground state just for voting. And that's why, that's what everybody is trying to get us to do, the battleground for voting. But cotton.
So you're suggesting that Donald Trump is the candidate that would keep either party from being able to take away these commodities.
Yes, yeah, because he's going to protect the capital markets. He's going to protect the emerging markets. He's going to go ahead.
No, go ahead. We're listening to you. No, we were listening to you. Are you there?
I think we lost again, Mr. A.
No. What I'm suggesting, no, not Donald Trump is going to do that. No, I'm talking about the other side will do that, because we've already experienced that with rationings of food. And I'm a COO in a medical supply business, and we know that now we have a study on a pesticide called triclosan. And we know that triclosan is being put in our foods, our soaps, our laundry detergents, and the FDA has taken it out of some soaps, but not all soaps. Okay. So we have to be so very mindful. They're trying to just put our level of voting, but Black America, let me tell you, Black America is not going to fail us. They're not going to fail us, because, as I say, the woke generation, no, Black America has already seen the legacy of what can go for generations. I'm going to put, if I had to put some money on it, I put some money on Black America. I put some money on Black America and the people of America and the citizens of America to say that, you know what, that we're going to pick a businessman to run the United States of America.
Okay. Well,
let me throw something in there, Mr. A, while it's fresh in my mind. What are the traditional Republicans afraid of? And when I'm talking about traditional Republicans, I'm talking about those who have been the power structure of the Republican Party as we know it. And I'm talking about the Lindsey Grahams. I'm talking about the Mitch McConnells. I'm talking about the Mitt Romneys. I'm talking about the Liz Cheneys. What are they really afraid of as it pertains to Donald Trump? Donald Trump has come in as a businessman and literally interrupted the normal flow of the Republican Party. Donald Trump has single-handedly, an outsider, come in as a businessman and and threw a monkey wrench in their plans. Because, as Ms. Jackson said earlier today, politics makes strange bedfellows. And when you got those on both sides of the aisle that are in the same bed, their own interests being self-served, but then here comes an outsider. So the question that is asked now is, Donald Trump has interrupted the flow of the traditional Republican Party. It is no longer the Republican Party as we think it is. It is now the party of Trump. That's what they're afraid of.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're at the hour and a half point, and I would like you each to briefly give us a closing remark on this conversation that we have had, beginning with Miss Annette Davis Jackson. Is she there? Okay. Let us begin with Miss Valerie White. Give us the closing statement, just going into going into this next week.
Well, listen, it's when you guys call me Valerie White, it takes me back to pre-marriage. I don't hear my maiden name heard often, but hey, these conversations are iron sharpens iron. We have to invoke thought and go into these conversations with an open mind. Be prepared to fight and stand up for our Constitution and the Republic. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to continue to educate the masses, the ones that's in my sphere of influence. I'm going pretty hard on social media, if y'all on my social media. and one-on-one conversations. I got a lot of events coming up. Working with America's First Works has been a great opportunity for me. And yeah, I look forward to having some more conversations with some people in Georgia tomorrow at the Vince Ellis event, and continue networking and building a strong force to stand for America. It's America first.
Minister Fredrick Norman, you have a
Okay.
closing word.
You mean you're not going to restore my 20 minutes of the time that I lost, Mr. A?
Man, I don't know where you was at, bro. I don't know where you went. I tried. I text you and everything.
I was having some power issues over here.
But
That's
really,
all. That's all in humor. But my parting statement, Mr. A, is sometimes I really wish it's my deepest hope that Black Americans would truly come into the light and understand that their hope is placed strictly in a vote. Votes don't run
Thank
America.
you.
Votes do not run America. If it did, with 90% of Black people voting on the Democratic ticket, why does their issue continue to stay the same? Why? If votes really ran America. So my hope for Black people that they would come into the understanding through conversations that America is a capitalist country. It's a capitalist system. And what runs America is currency, economics. And if you don't have any of it, you can vote all you want on either side of the aisle. But if you show up with no capital, which Black Americans lag in that regard, as it pertains, Barack Obama was a great example of it. All the hope was placed on the first Black president, et cetera. Did the economic or financial conditions of Black America change? No. So what is it that Black people are missing? They don't understand what runs America. Hello?
yes, we're here. They get knocked off again?
Okay. Until Black Americans, my fellow Black Americans, understand what runs America, capital, then you will not be in a position to affect really much change of anything. You can vote Republican, you can vote Democrat, and that's your choice, whichever one you vote for. But if you're not showing up with what the foundation of America is, that's why Black people, after the vote has been counted, whatever candidate takes the seat, you're forgotten. There's no interest in you until the next 4 years because you're not showing up with what really runs politicians. It's not politicians that run America. It's capital that runs America. And Black people, by and large, do not understand when you control currency, when you control, currency for your culture, you can buy politicians all day on either side of the aisle. Every culture understands that. But Black America shows up continuously with their hopes in a vote, and they come up shorthanded every single time. So until, like Ms. Jackson was saying, the commodities. Why is it that Black people don't control any commodities? Those things that create capital, currency. Why is that? But they place all their hope in a vote, and continuously show up short. So I've been speaking that for years. I will continue to speak it to every, Black American that I engage, who I can have conversation with. Do you really understand what runs political parties? If you don't have capital, you really have no voice. So let's wrap our minds around how do we, as Black Americans, Black men and Black women, come together, collaborate, coalesce together, and start to control our own economy. Until we do that, then it's like being in the wind.
I think that would be a great place to touch on or start on our next conversation, because now we have to begin to get outside of this political realm and start talking about really what's happening. What does it mean to have boots on the ground? What does it mean to get out here and be economically sound as a black individual in this country, and not be so dependent on a political system that has not served us. It has been an absolute pleasure seeing the two of you. I will see the two of you tomorrow. Yeah, we'll. I may have to have a drink. I haven't had a drink in a while, but I may have to have one.
Wait. The two of us. Fredrick, you're going?
No, I canceled my trip, Mr. A. I canceled. And I tried to, Valerie, I tried to reach out to, I went online last night, to see if it was too late to get the VIP, because I was going to gift Mr. A with it, and nobody, responded back. So, my conversation to Mr. A was, I will gift him that. So just go ahead and show up. I'm sure they won't turn money away at the door, for the
Well, I
VIP.
can get it. I can text April and ask her. April Chapman, who's in charge of the event. Did you want to go, or you just not gonna go?
Well, I'm definitely. I'm planning on going. It's on my schedule. So, do I need to do something? Do I need to contact anyone, or what do I need to do?
No. If you have a ticket, did you receive the agenda? Did you receive
But he
the
doesn't
event?
have the ticket, Valerie. He doesn't have the ticket.
I need to go online and get a ticket.
Oh yeah.
Well, when I went online last night, after you and I had the conversation, Valerie, I think it was yesterday, and I think April, the lady her face is there. That's April, right?
Right.
So down at the bottom, it has a comment section. If you have a question, and so I sent the message: is it too late, to purchase a VIP ticket for the event? And and they said that someone would respond back, but I haven't gotten an answer back. So I'm encouraging
So
Mr.
both of you all, let me get this straight. So
I need to just send me whatever
go
link
ahead.
or whatever. Just send me whatever link so I can go ahead and get situated. Because
The link is in the group. The link is in the group chat, and I sent it to you both individually. If you have a problem buying a ticket, text me, and then I can text April and see what she says.
Okay. All right. Well, it was a pleasure seeing the two of you, and I will see you tomorrow, Valerie.
Did
And
Miss Jackson drop? Did she drop?
yeah, she dropped off.
Okay.
And Miss Minister Norman, we will talk
Yes,
soon.
sir. Absolutely. All right. Y'all have a good evening.
You too. Peace.
All right, bye.
Y'all have a good one. Be blessed. Thank you.
Okay.
Peace.